30 seconds to go live. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us this evening. I am calling to order this regular council meeting of Monday, September 12th, 2022 to order. For the members of the community, please be advised that this meeting is being broadcasted and recorded by Hartford Public Access Television and can be viewed via Hartford Public Access TV Facebook page, Comcast Xfinity Channel 96, www.hpa-tv.org, or Channel 6032 for Frontier customers. Spanish interpretation is provided through a partnership with the City of Hartford and the Hartford Public Library. Additional accommodations can be made available with enough notice to the Office of the Council President. Once again, thank you for being here with us this evening. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
I'm here in my office, but I would rather be at the council chambers, and I look forward to us going back to live council meetings at some point in the very near future, like maybe the next council meeting, I would hope.
Councilwoman Hercules. Councilwoman Hercules.
Present.
Councilman LeBron.
I didn't hear Councilman Gale say present, but I'm present.
Councilman Mitchell.
I'm present. I agree with Councilman Gale.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Present.
Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I also like to recognize Mr. Eric Lusa from the Town Clerk's Office and our Corporation Counsel, Howard Rifkin, and hello to members of the Hartford Public Access TV that make it possible for us to be virtual. And now our Town Clerk will lead us on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make the motion that we approve the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 City Council meeting and August 11th, 2022 special meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions on the minutes? Any discussions, any comments? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we suspend our agenda to add the supplemental items as follows. Item 7.1, Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee, communication discharging the resolution that was originally submitted from Mayor BRONIN on March 28th on our council agenda, authorizing and empower the city to grant the Connecticut Natural Gas Corporation, which is discharged from the Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee. Item 7.2, Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution authorizing the city of Hartford City to enter into a purchase and sales agreement with Gateway Partnership LLC. Item 7.3, Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution authorizing the city to accept a $6,300,000 Communities Challenge Grant from the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development from the Connecticut Communities Challenge Grant. Item 7.4, Mayor BRONIN, Planning, Economic Development, and Housing Committee with accompanying resolution authorizing the city of Hartford to enter into a purchase and sales agreement along with a 10-year tax fixing agreement pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 12-65B with the National Development Council. Item 7.5, Mayor Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee with accompanying resolution approving the recommendations of the Capital Region Council of Governments, CROG, Rapid Routes Transit Priority Corridor Study. Item 7.6, Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee with accompanying resolution confirming the appointment of Craig Mergens to the Greater Hartford Flood Commission. Item 7.7, Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee with accompanying resolution confirming the appointment of Stanley Sobeski to the Greater Hartford Flood Commission.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments? Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, I wasn't sure if I missed it, but it was 7.4 on the consent.
This is just a supplemental agenda. We haven't. Yeah.
Councilman, I was just adding the items on the agenda.
Thank you.
So just for the record, Madam President, just want to make it clear that item 7.1 is to grant CNG an easement for the record.
Thank you. Majority Clerk. Councilman Mission, you had your hand up?
No, that was the thing that the majority leader just said, that the easement part. I just wanted to add that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Are there any other discussions? Any other comments? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we place the following items on our consent calendar, and I read them as follows. Item 3.7, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution authorizing the mayor to accept operating assistance grant funding in the amount of $134,500 from the Greater Hartford Transit District for operation of the city's dollar-wide program. Item 3.10, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution authorizing the city's expenditure of $1,890,016 in local capital improvement program, LOCIP funds from the state of Connecticut's Office of Policy and Management. Item 3.14, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution authorizing the city to accept a $4,500 from the grant from the Department of Family, Children, Youth, and Recreation, Hartford Unity Community Grant Review Panel from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Item 4.1, Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution confirming the appointment of Hyacinth Yenny to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. Item 4.2, Public Works, Parks, Recreation, and Environment Committee, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution confirming the appointment of Janine McMahon to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. Item 4.3, Health and Human Services Committee with accompanying resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant of $60,000 in funding from the Heart and Home Health Program, HHP. Item 4.4, Health and Human Services Committee with accompanying resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant of $35,000 in the Title 3D funding for the Keep On Living program. Item 4.5, Operations Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee with accompanying resolution authorizing the transfer of funds between departments, offices, and/or agencies as necessary to implement the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. Item 5.1, resolution committing to uphold free and fair elections. Item 5.2, the resolution calling on the Hartford Court of Common Council and the city departments to work in conjunction with each other to address the issue of food deserts in Hartford. Item 7.3, Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution authorizing the city to accept a $6 million in Communities Challenge grant from the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, Connecticut Communities Challenge Grant Award. Item 7.5, Planning, Economic Development, and Housing Committee with accompanying resolution approving the recommendations of the Capital Region Council of Governments Rapid Routes Transit Priority Corridor Study. Item 7.6, Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee with accompanying resolution confirming the appointment of Craig Mergens to the Greater Hartford Flood Commission. Item 7.7, Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee with accompanying resolution confirming the appointment of Stanley Sobieski to the Greater Hartford Flood Commission. And that concludes our items for the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments, any discussions?
Yes, Madam.
Councilwoman Surgeon, you have the floor.
Thank you. Could I add my name to 5.1 and 5.2? Mr. Clerk?
Got it.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or discussions? Councilman Mitchum?
Thank you, Council President. There's just two matters. I'm consenting, obviously, but I wanted just to say something about them. One is 4.5, which is from OMBGA authorizing the moving of funds. I didn't know what it was when I read it and I had to ask. It's basically, we already approved how our ARPA money, this body approved the spending of ARPA money in various ways, but then now separately, we have to approve the moving of money for the spending of it, which if anyone's following along at home, it's kind of confusing. I was confused, so I thought I would just explain the explanation I got, which was useful. And I would add that during budget negotiations, I was told that there was a plan to fund 4 housing inspectors with some of that ARPA money, because those are in big chunks that the mayor has a lot of control over. And now that seems to have disappeared. So I just want us to keep that in mind, that although we approve them in broad strokes, there's a lot of discretion on the part of the administration. And we should be leaning on the administration to make our city better with that discretion. The other thing I wanted to say is that I appreciate very much the food deserts resolution, but I also, we heard from so many folks during public comment talking about the decades that we've been hearing promises of let's get an operator and let's get a plot, and let's do this and let's do that. And what always has seemed to happen is that the operators look at the economics of it and they don't want to do it. And many months ago, I asked the Director of Development Services to look into whether we should run a grocery store our own selves, and we could take the profit margin out of it and let the city run it. It's a thing that other cities around the country that are food deserts have done, some of them successfully. I haven't heard anything back about that, but I'm hoping maybe the next thing we can do is actually direct him to give us a report or to commission a study, because I feel like we're going to be spinning our wheels like this about bringing in outside operators till we're all in the ground. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Clerk, if you could add my name to resolution 5.2, please. Any other comments? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we refer the following items to the mentioned committees. Item 3.1 to the Operations Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee, which is Mayor BRONIN with the accompanying resolution City of Hartford's Department of Health and Human Services to receive funding and execute an MOU with Catholic Charities for the use of social solutions, Apricot 360 database. Item 3.3, to the Health and Human Services Committee, which is Mayor BRONIN with the company resolution authorizing the city's Department of Health and Human Services to receive funding and execute contracts and contract amendments with the Community Renewal Team. Item 3.8, also to the Health and Human Services Committee, which is Mayor BRONIN with the company resolution authorizing the city to receive grant funding from the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health. Item 3.13, also to the Health and Human Services Committee, Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution authorizing the City of Hartford's Department of Health and Human Services to receive funding from and execute related contracts with the Village for Families and Children. Item 3.2, to the Planning, Economic Development and Housing Committee, Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution confirming the appointment of Marianne Ando Clark to the Central Regional Tourism District. Item 5.3, also to the Planning, Economic Development and Housing Committee, which is a resolution calling for Hartford Court of Common Council to, with the city departments, to identify ways to create and designated tractor trailer parking areas. Item 3.12, to the Planning, Economic Development and Housing Committee, which is Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution authorizing the purchase of the Church of the Sacred Heart at 24 Eli Street, which has a public hearing for September 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Item 3.4, to the Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee, Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant from the state of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development in the amount of $1 million to make capital and other improvements at Elizabeth Park. Item 3.5, to the Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee, Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution authorizing the city to accept a $350,000 grant from the State Department of Energy Environmental Protection and to execute related documents for the purpose of making numerous capital improvements to the east lawn of Hartford's Elizabeth Park. Item 3.6, to the Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee, Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution authorizing the city to accept a $2 million grant from the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and to execute related documents for the purpose of constructing a new entrance to Goodwin Park, as well as nearby sidewalks and lighting on Maple Avenue. Item 3.9, to the Public Works, Parks, Recreation, and Environment Committee, Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution confirming the appointment of Maria Nunez to the Hartford Golf Course Oversight Commission. Item 3.11, to the Quality Life and Public Safety Committee, Mayor BRONIN with a company resolution authorizing the city to execute an agreement with Eastern Communications, Inc. to provide and install and maintain the citywide radio communications systems. And that concludes our referral items.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman LeBron.
Yes, I would just like the record to reflect that I'm recusing myself for the item related to Catholic Charities.
Duly noted. Any other comments? Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes, Madam. I would like to add my name to 5.3.
Got it.
Thank you.
Majority Leader Clark. I thought I saw your hand up.
Yes, Madam President, thank you. Through you, I just want to make it clear that for item 3.2, the appointment of Marian Ando Clark to the Central Regional Tourism District, we have no relationship with each other, okay?
I thought about that, yes.
Just spell her last name.
Thank you.
There is no relation right there.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, for the record, could you also add my name to 5.3?
Yes.
Thank you. There being no other discussions or comments, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules?
Yes.
Councilman LeBron with the excuse for the Catholic Charities?
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we postpone the following items. Item 3.15, Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee, communication concerning resolution on facial recognition technology. Item 3.16, Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee, communication concerning authorizing and empower the city to accept a grant to Connecticut Natural Gas. I just have a question, sorry. Because we are voting on, and I need clarification from the Corporation Council. Since we are voting on 7.1, do we take action on this item as well? Since the chairwoman has discharges from her committee?
Through you, Madam President, I think this, the action to add the item, the discharged item to the agenda makes moot 3.16. So you can, I guess, postpone it. It's sort of, it's really superseded by your action adding that item to the agenda. So I would just leave it on postpone.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
And the clerk should note that this should not come back for the next council meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corporation Counsel. Okay, item 3.16, Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Environment Committee, communication concerning authorizing and empower the city to grant the Connecticut Natural Gas easement. Item 3.17, Operations Management, Budget and Government Accountability Committee, communication concerning an ordinance amending Article 17 of Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code of Hartford. And item 3.18, Labor, Education, Workforce, and Youth Development Committee, communication concerning Corporation Counsel making a presentation to the Court of Common Council in a public meeting regarding the City of Hartford's contract negotiations with the Hartford Police Union.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments, any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum. Councilman Mitchum.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take action on item 7.1, which is Public Works, Parks, Recreation, and Environment Committee, communication, discharge, and resolution authorizing and empower the city to grant Connecticut Natural Gas Corporation an easement, which is an original resolution from Mayor BRONIN's resolution to the City Council on March 28th.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mitchum?
Thank you, Madam President. Just briefly, what this concerns is that the University of Hartford wants to build, I don't remember what it is, it's some kind of power station, substation thing that needs a gauge of gas line that they can't get from the West Hartford side. It's for their benefit, for the University of Hartford's benefit. And so what we're giving to Connecticut Natural Gas is a right forever to maintain a gas pipeline that runs under the back of the parking lot at Weaver High School, across the wetlands there by the railroad tracks and over to UHart. And this is basically a real estate transaction. People get easements all the time, right? They pay for easements so that they can cross somebody's property or, run gas or anything they need to run into their property. They pay for these things like you pay for anything in real estate. And for some reason, we're just giving it away. And that's why I'm voting no on this, because we're in a position where CNG has told us we can't get the gauge of gas line we need from the West Hartford side. In other words, we have them in a spot. We have a thing that they need. That's business. We should be getting money or benefit from them. And I've heard my colleagues only say that, well, UHART is beneficial, broadly speaking, to the region, and they host University High School. That deal was worked out a long time ago. I don't think we have to be beholden to UHART forever, and we certainly don't have to be beholden to CNG. I think we could do this like business people and get something out of it.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Thank you, Council President. To Councilman Mitchum's comments, and I understand them because I was probably of the same vein at the beginning of this conversation. When we started this many meetings ago, and subsequently, which Councilman Mitchum was not in attendance, we had 2 more meetings, and I believe the community also had a meeting on their own, and we organized a meeting for the community. We addressed many of those issues. We also learned that and I think Councilman Sanchez can speak to this, the length of which it will be a fuel cell, the length of which the pipe will be, what the easement will be. I can't spew it all back word for word, that they will be hosting and providing collaboration with Weaver High School, the University of Hartford on fuel cells, many items that came up in subsequent meetings. So I understand that there was in many of us these concerns in the beginning, but after subsequent meetings, subsequent discussions, information shared in both ways, I feel confident in voting yes in what we finally came to with everyone at the table. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Gale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Just to add to what Councilwoman Rossetti has just said, and for clarification, this gas pipeline is to feed a fuel cell, which is green energy. And so I think it's really not just for the University of Hartford's benefit, it's for all of our benefits, to the extent that we all need everybody to be moving to cleaner forms of energy. I would also note that I did attend not all of those meetings that Councilwoman Rossetti mentioned, but several of them, and have come to understand this is a relatively benign easement. It's not going to interfere with much property. It's at the end of their cul-de-sac at Weaver High. It's not going anywhere near their playing fields at the school itself. Lastly, I would just mention that should we require a payment from CNG, it likely would have just simply been passed on to the University of Hartford. I do think that the University of Hartford has been a good partner with the City of Hartford over the years, and I think I share the administration's view that it's a reasonable thing for us to accommodate the university in this regard. Thank you.
Councilman LeBron?
Yes, just to piggyback off of Councilwoman Rossetti and also to Councilman Mitchum, I think there's a spirit that ties all of this together. There's the business side, there's the community partner side. The other thing I want to acknowledge is the community engagement side. I think from my efforts, that's what was most concerning and pressing for me. As we began to speak on the language of fuel cells and green energy and all of the technical stuff, I became more and more aware of how much I didn't know, and they might as well have been speaking Chinese, because they got to a point where, you know, the electrical grids and all this other stuff, like, you know, was beyond me. And I think it's important to state that. But what wasn't was the community involvement and the community recognition and the community transparency, and for the community to make their presence felt. I think throughout the process that happened. And I think as the iterations came forward, meeting after meeting, you started to see that partnership happen. What I will say also is that as a result of all of the efforts going back to the meetings, is that there is a tentative community partnership that not only acknowledges what Councilwoman Rossetti has stated, but other potential future partnerships with the school itself, and that I spoke with the PTO president herself, which she was on the public comment earlier. So the other thing I just want to be mindful of as well, when we talk about University of Hartford and their partnerships, they also provide half-off scholarships year after year, at least for the last 2 decades that I'm aware of, to City of Hartford scholars. So I know we could quantify that in terms of a cost, but what we never will be able to quantify is the knowledge gained. That is limitless. And so because of that and the partnership and also all the efforts made, I'll be voting yes on this item.
Councilman Sanchez. Councilman Mixtum, I'll get back to you at the end. Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I agree with everything that's been shared here. And yes, I do concur with Councilwoman Rossetti. One of the things I just want to state is that CNG experienced a very rude awakening, an awakening that was very necessary. I believe now they realize the importance of the magnitude of community engagement, as well as outreach and educating the neighborhood that they're about to affect. And not only that, also coming back and restoring the neighborhood to its original or better condition than they left it at. And this is a big issue throughout the city of Hartford. And I just hope that AT&T, Comcast, Eversource has been following what's been going on, where CNG failed to communicate with the community and do their outreach so that they understand what we're expecting of them, and they need to respect us. So in our community. Thank you.
Councilwoman Surgeon, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Madam Council President. I just want to agree and echo everything that's been said by the previous council person, but more than anything else, I want to recognize Councilwoman Rossetti. She went way above and beyond in partnershiping with the community. She had several meetings where the community came in. She didn't have to, but she did. So I just wanted to thank her very much for working with the community and getting them educated. And so this certainly shows the partnership if we as council people work with the community and educate them for this positive issue that they're going to enjoy.
Yes, and I'll have to echo everyone's comments, especially Councilwoman Surgeon's in the great job that you did, Assistant Majority Leader Rossetti, with the community. I know I attended one of the meetings, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't your meeting, but you were running the meeting, and you did an awesome job bringing the community together. And the University of Hartford is such a great partner with the City of Hartford, and like Councilman Nick LeBrun said, they do offer half of on scholarships too. The residents of the City of Hartford. So I will be voting yes on this resolution. Councilwoman Hercules?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very low, but we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, these headphones aren't always the best. I guess certainly commend Councilwoman Rossetti for her efforts in being responsive to the questions and concerns that the community had, because certainly there were quite a few. I guess one of the things I'm curious about is whether or not, my understanding is that the Weaver PTO has not yet met regarding this issue. And also, as a point of order, that this CNG easement was postponed on the PWPRE committee and due back on the 14th. And so it would seem premature for us to vote on it prior to getting that both input from both of those bodies, the PTO at Weaver, as well as the PWPRE committee meeting.
Councilman Mixtum?
Thank you, Madam President. I agree. I want to be clear. I was able to go to some of the meetings and not all of the meetings. And I didn't mean at all to suggest, I want to agree with Councilman LeBron that and Councilwoman Surgeon, Councilwoman Rossetti, brought people in. And when this first came in, I think the committee rightly reacted what's going on here? It felt like, we got this map that someone drew a little dotted line on. So I didn't mean to criticize the process, but I do want to ask through you, Council President, to Councilwoman Rossetti, the program, the coming program that Councilwoman Rossetti alluded to, and I think Councilwoman LeBron also spoke about, in terms of like working with Weaver and the further benefits in the future, do we have it in writing as a commitment in exchange for the easement? How do we know? What do we have to know that that's a
Council
guarantee?
President, through you,
Yes.
the commitment was made on, and again, this was the community's meeting that we put together. And yes, there were to be follow-up meetings, which they were put together. If they did not put them together, that is kind of past us, but we did organize one community meeting. And their commitment was to Blue Hill Civic. And certainly I can follow up with Blue Hill Civic to make sure that happens. But the commitment was made publicly on television that they would, on public access, that they would do these things. Can I reach out to the chair of the PTO? Certainly. I believe it was Mr. Lovejoy from Blue Hill Civic. Others, certainly I can help facilitate that and continue to facilitate that. But the commitments were made publicly, and I would like to think University of Hartford and their community relations person and CNG would stick by their commitments. But I can understand people's concerns, and if that's something people would like me to follow up with those residents, I'd be more than happy to.
For the record, I think that Councilwoman Rossetti, you have gone above and beyond when it comes to this matter and trying to be as transparent and communicative as possible. Are there any other comments? Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, real quick, and to Councilwoman
Rossetti's
point, I believe the recording is just as good as a written statement.
That is correct, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti, for everything that you've done for this.
Councilman Mixtum?
I would respectfully disagree and just remind my colleagues of when the busway was built and Flower Street was closed. And there were many public statements about how, I think it was DOT, was going to build a pedestrian bridge so that Flower Street could continue to connect Farmington to Capitol. And then, there was no guarantee, and now there's no pedestrian bridge. And I don't want to say that necessarily CNG or UHART is eager to go back on their public word, but I would move at this point that we postpone until we can have something in writing that makes clear that what they promised is written and it's an exchange for the easement.
Is that a motion, Councilman Mixtum?
It is, Madam President. A motion to postpone for that reason.
I would second that motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments on this motion? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
No.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
No.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
No.
Councilman Sanchez.
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now we're back to our original motion. If you could call the roll, please, Mr. Clerk.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
No.
Councilman LeBron.
Sorry, just got distracted by someone.
We're back to the original motion.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
No.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take action on item 7.2, Planning, Economic Development, and Housing Committee, Mayor BRONIN, with accompanying resolution authorizing the City of Hartford to enter into a purchase and sales agreement with Gateway Partnership, LLC.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Gale. You're on mute, Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not sure that the committee's report reflects it. When I looked at it in the record, it didn't seem to have the actual text of the motion that came out of committee. But the motion that came out of committee sending this back with a favorable recommendation was conditioned upon two things. One is a favorable A24 review, which I understand will take place tomorrow. And two, that the term sheet that accompanies this purchase and sale transaction be amended to include what I'm going to call a clawback provision. That is a provision that provides that if the developer either sells the property within 10 years or cashes out with a mortgage refinance and pulls money out of the project, that the city of Hartford recoups some of our taxes. And so I believe that the administration has agreed that that would be included. And so I would move to amend what we're going to act upon tonight to add those two conditions, that we amend, we pass this purchase and sale conditioned upon those two items, the A24 review and the clawback provision being added to the term sheet.
I second that.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Are there any other discussions or comments? Councilwoman Hercules.
Thank you. I guess my only concern is that in committee, it was favorable with these conditions, and now here we have this motion without those things having been in place. So I would worry about us voting for it contingent upon things that may not occur. It sounds like one of them at least is going to occur tomorrow, but I would feel more comfortable having those things taken place prior to voting on the motion, because our understanding in committee was that that would have happened by today's vote, and it hasn't.
Are there any other comments? Councilman Mixton.
It's a question for Corporation Counsel. If we pass this amendment that Councilman Gale just moved, and then we pass the underlying resolution, and then the conditions of the amendment aren't met, is the resolution void?
Through you, Council President, the amendment would change the resolution and essentially require that the A24 approval takes place, and B, that the term sheet include a provision that's described by Councilman Gale as a clawback. I don't, so they become bound together.
In other words,
assuming you adopt this amendment and then subsequently the resolution as amended.
So then if after we adopted that, let's say the A24 didn't come through somehow, then our resolution would be sort of meaningless, or right, in essence?
Well, then we would not be able to enter into a purchase and sale agreement.
Right, that's what I was getting at. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
This is on the amendment. Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
As amended, yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now we're back to the original resolution. If you could call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Councilman Clark.
Sorry. Council President.
Yes.
So now it would be approval of the resolution as amended.
As amended, correct. Thank you.
Councilman Clark.
As amended, yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we enter into executive session to discuss item 6.1, Mayor BRONIN with accompanying resolution to discuss the potential settlement of a workers' compensation matter.
Councilman Clark, did we have?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a lot going on. A lot going on back and forth.
I told you earlier, I'm ready to go. Okay, I strike that because I'm looking at my notes. I would like to make the motion that we take action on item 7.4, which is Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee with accompanying resolution authorizing the City of Hartford to enter into a purchase and sales agreement along with a 10-year tax fixing agreement pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 12-65B with the National Development Council, which this is a sales tax agreement with NDC and Albany for the Albany Woodland project.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Councilman Gale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I move to amend the item, in this case, to just add one condition, and that is that this item gets a favorable 824 review from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that's therefore a condition of the project moving forward.
I second that.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments or discussions? Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, through you, Madam President. So the 824 for both items, 7.2 and 7.4 is scheduled for tomorrow's meeting. And I'm looking forward to it and passing favorably.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll on the amendment?
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti. Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And so now we're going to vote on the resolution as amended. If you could call the roll.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes. Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
All right, here we go. Through you, Madam President, I'd like to make the motion that we enter into executive session to discuss item 6.1, which is Mayor BRONIN with the company resolution to discuss the potential settlement of a workers' compensation matter, Jonathan Kiro versus the City of Hartford.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hercules.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. For members of the public, we will now be logging off this screen. But Mr. Clerk, I have made you the host.
Thank you.
And so we will be back shortly after we come out of
Council President, I need like 4 minutes before I get back on, okay?
That's fine. That's fine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.